couple of questions last year.
Okay, good.
Couple of serious ones this time. The first one, what do you think of the WAC and the HTML5 standard with regards to mobile apps, of course? And the second one is on a more lighter note. Do you think Larry should have been here instead of you? And another lighter one.
Can we do them in order?
Sure.
Let's start with Larry. Part of the deal is when Larry Sergey and I talked about making things more efficient, Larry said, Eric, you get to fly around more. So the answer is he's extremely happy that I'm here.
Okay.
And Larry is probably asleep at the moment, but if he's waking up, he's busy working at his desk, working on products. So the division that we've always, we work as a triumvirate, and Sergey, of course, is working on a whole bunch of new issues, new opportunities, which you'll see. But the partitioning of external-internal is particularly comfortable for both Larry and me. So your first question had to do with HTML5. The HTML5 standard is evolving, and it looks to me like HTML5 will eventually become the way in which almost all applications will be built, including those for phones. There are some features missing, but it's getting there. And remember I said that it's taken 20 years to get to this point? It's because the underlying application standard had to aggregate, if you will, the capabilities that had evolved onto the proprietary Mac and Windows API frameworks. And what's interesting is that all of the vendors, including those with proprietary operating systems, have adopted HTML5 as their future direction. So there's and of course Google has already. So it's every reason to believe that eventually means some number of years from now, a lot of the applications you use will be running on HTML5 in a mobile and non-mobile form, and that's another great simplification for developers and a good one. You had a third question?
Yes. The third one was, what are in terms of financial trends, what are you seeing with regards to your mobile advertising business?
Well, the thing that has always been most surprising to me is the monetization of the apps. I've been very impressed with the monetization of the apps in the Apple ecosystem, and we've seen a similar trend in the Android ecosystem, and that's very well. You always worry that's not going to happen. You always worry you're going to have really cute apps, but nobody will sell them. People are willing to pay for these applications. We purchased a company that was heavily involved in both Android and essentially the iOS system, and it's performed flawlessly for us. Let's see, more questions over here. Yes, sir.
Google has been very successful bringing intelligence to a consumer, and it has been very interesting. And also, we see Facebook has been very successful bringing emotional value to the marketplace. So we spend a lot of time in the social life. So, what is your vision? How Google's is going to bring intelligence in the social life?
Well, in Google's case, we see ourselves as a platform. And with respect to social information, we would argue that if you're willing to give us this information, which again, you have to choose to, we can make your search better. A typical example would be YouTube. We have a lean-back version of YouTube, and so if you're in lean-back mode and you tell YouTube who your friends are, it can anonymously use that as a signal to suggest even more relevant videos for you. Same thing for maps and so forth and so on. So our core strategy with respect to social activity is to try to make our core properties, the ones that I've talked about, essentially better because of social information. Technically, it's another signal that we add to the matrix, and that's what our approach is. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Eric. I'm Cameron Zacconi, working for the government in Belgium.
Okay.
So I want to raise one point related to one important topic for the growth of the internet. So a couple of us over here knows of the importance of the IPv6 technology within the growth of the internet and the freedom and the power to the application. Not a lot of people over here knows this important on the mobile world. What's your opinion? We know that Google for the V6 Day is ready, is pushing forward on the cable. What about the mobile?
So, so everybody here understands that IPv4 is the current standard of addresses, and the last block of IPv4 addresses is going to be allocated within the next 6 months. So we really have a problem in terms of addressability, and with the explosion of devices, you have this issue. Google is one of the companies that, as you pointed out, is participating in a day where we're going to test full IPv6 connectivity. And the technical problem is that if you accept an IPv6 address as a router, you have to make sure that you can route it all the way to the other end, or you will fail to make the connection, which is not okay if you're a router. So we're trying to prove that. The general consensus is that the devices that are modern, certainly the Google devices, all the other major vendors have IPv6 capabilities, and most of the modern routers fully route IPv6. There is concern about a lot of the intermediate things, the network address translation boxes, all the other things that sit in between things that you forgot about. You plugged it into the wall and you haven't upgraded it and so forth. So we're likely to find some problems there. I believe that this is one of the great sort of urgent problems for this vision, and I thank you for asking about it. The good news is the technology is there, the technology works very well, and it's just a matter of making sure that we do a number of these tests to make sure we get full IPv6 routing. We were concerned a long time ago that with the explosion of, for example, IP addresses in India or China, we'd have to have a whole country or continent be IPv6, but through modern address translation, they were able to avoid that. But the time is now, we have to deal with it. In 1994, we did the math, and we said that we would run out of IPv4 addresses in 2008 plus or minus 3, and it's 2011. So we're roughly right on schedule. Yes, sir.
Hi, Eric. Miguel Lopez for Gembeta, Spain. You talk about the big possibilities we will have in the future with all those mobile devices and tablets. But how do you particularly see Google in 10 years, like in the Mobile World Congress in 2021?
Well, I'm sure the Mobile World Congress will be a lot bigger, and Google will certainly be a lot bigger. That's sort of the first thing I would say. Because the description that I made is, it's not a one product cycle. In your lifetimes, there are one or two technological transitions. There was the mainframe transition and the PC transition. We're now going into the mobile transition. So it's reasonable to expect that 10 years from now, the world will be even more mobile. We won't have swapped to something else. The most interesting thing that's occurring is the development of artificial intelligence on top of all the platforms that I'm describing that can help you make judgments, learn things, needle in a haystack problems. And the things that will go wow 10 years from now will probably be in that area. I'm quite certain that the infrastructure will be built out, that the devices will work, that everyone will be all connected. What we cannot predict are the new killer apps, the things that are the companies that are being founded today, that 10 years from now we're going to go, oh my God, I have no idea how I lived without it, which is why this is so exciting. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes. Jan Pousset, Philips Electronics, Netherlands. Question about personal healthcare. Is the cost of healthcare rising? How do you see the mobile devices play out in, let's say, the 10-year cycle you mentioned, and how can it benefit people? What's the vision from Google with this?
It just seems obvious to me that your mobile device should provide real-time telemetry of your health. There are projects now to try to have the mobile devices have sensors that can do this that are non-invasive. But at a minimum, you can have the standard hospital or medical diagnosis clipped to you and have your phone be providing that. So as you age or if you have some medical problem, that's a starting point. There are estimates that between 3 and 4% of the queries of Google are medical related. And so we have worked very hard to make sure that our medical answers are sufficiently accurate, that they say, you are having a heart attack, please go to the hospital right now, right? And we want to make that more automated and have the phone be able to assist you to do that. There's a question over here.
Hi, this is Dimitris from Greece. I have a question for you. Facebook collects data about users and what they like through the like button. As a result, sooner or later, they will offer even more personalized advertisement. Do you believe that Facebook is your main competitor in business ads?
Well, today our main competitor is Microsoft. Microsoft has a very good product called Bing. There's a couple cases where it might be a little too good. We discussed that in a blog post a few weeks ago. But there's no question that our primary competitor today is Microsoft, and I think that will be true. Microsoft has a strong advertising model, very similar to the kinds of things. And they have, as you know, they have the cache, the scale, the brand, and the reach. to do good and amazing things. Facebook today appears to be additive in the sense that Facebook users use Google more, and there's no evidence that the Facebook advertising is hurting our advertising business in any way. So at the moment, we would say Facebook is probably zero to net positive, and it's clear to us that Microsoft is a core competitor and likely to remain so for a long time. Over here. Yes.
Tom Warren from winrooms.com. What are your thoughts on the Nokia Windows Phone partnership, and was this a missed opportunity for Android?
We would have loved that they had chosen Android. They chose the other guys, that other competitor, Microsoft, and I think we're pretty straightforward. We would like them to adopt Android at some point in the future. That offer remains open. We think Android was a good choice for Nokia, and we're sorry that they made a different choice. And we certainly tried.
Just, Eric, a real quick question. I'm in the dark, so I will smile. But
thank you.
In terms of, you mentioned that the current approach has been to reach the elite and the middle class. However, in the future, it's about reaching the masses. Yeah. Do you have any specific applications outside of mobile video that is more for the masses that you would be planning for the emerging market or the developing market? That's question number one. And on the lighter side, I know the gentleman talked about Facebook. You know, the Google executive had to use Facebook to create revolution in Egypt. Do you have any other applications that you're trying to create within Google?
Google Revolutions, Inc.
You know. Thank you. Those are my two questions, please.
Well,
in terms of the applications for the masses, that you, whether it's another vertical, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so let's talk about that in a sec. We are very, very proud of what Wael and that group was able to do in Egypt. They were able to use a set of technology, which included Facebook and Twitter and a number of others, to really express the voice of the people. And that's a good example of transparency, and we wish them very much the best. I've talked to him. You know, we're very, very proud of what he's done. That it is the nature of collaboration technology that this sort of thing is, and it's not one company, and certainly not only Google or anybody else, but it does change the power dynamic between governments and citizens in some very interesting and, in my ways, very unpredictable ways. So with respect to the emerging world, if you look at mobile penetrations and growth rates, one of the most stable businesses in third world countries is the telecom company, and virtually all of their deployment is mobile telephony using 3G standards and typically edge kind of devices. The problem with the networks is that they're already overloaded because they don't have enough capital and so forth. So if you sort of summarize the problems in those parts of the world, they have very high connectivity costs, they have overloaded networks, and they have devices that are too expensive. So one way to think about it, and we have a joke that sort of today's smartphone is tomorrow's feature phone. And so it may very well be that with declining cost curve, the expensive phones that we have today can be made available almost free or near free to people who don't have a lot of money anyway, and can give them the power of the world that we've taken for granted. The networks and so forth will require, it's a harder problem, you have to do the capital build out, but there are many ways of solving that problem. So I'm very optimistic about it. Over here, yes.
Hi, Mikael Riknes with IDG News Service. At the show, we've seen a fairly large variety of Android phones, if you look at the hardware, from dual-core processors and a lot of memory to, I think, what is the first, one of the first 2G Android phones from Alcatel. So when you go forward and develop both the SDKs and the platform itself, how do you approach that fact?
We've tried to establish a basic set of functionality, which is in the Open Handset Alliance spec, and we try to bring out one phone. In our case, it's the Nexus S, which has, I think, been fairly heavily popularized. It's a 3G phone, basically, which shows the best that can be done. So the minimum requirements are in the spec, but they include, for example, some form of a modest touchscreen and a modest processor and a modest amount of memory. It's important to establish a minimum so that you have common applications, so you're exactly right there. Yes, sir.
Brian Oliver Smith, Urban Planet Mobile. And you've built a couple of amazing platforms, and what my question is, my children use your platforms